Hello everyone, happy Thursday. What is it like where you are at? It is rainy and cold here, but I know people out west, even in our western part of the state, have had some really bad, messy weather. So I hope that where you are, it is a little better. Maybe not quite so bad as it is far out that way. So welcome to Beauty Among Us. Today will be a slightly different day than sharing a craft with you guys. My name is Amanda. It has been a while since I have been on here with you guys, but I am hoping that 2021 will be a better year, more focused year to where we can be on here with you guys more, sharing more projects, more crafts, more ideas, more recipes. And today is a recipe day. This is something new for me. It's a recipe that I had come across while searching on Pinterest, and this particular recipe is all over Pinterest. People have different ideas and different variants, but I am trying my hand at bread starter. So I'm going to try to do this journey along with you guys here on Facebook Live each day to see how it turns out. Starter is really very hard to come by. My mom used to get it when I was younger from someone in our town and would make bread. And the funny thing about starter is you feed it every day. You take about a cup out to make bread, rolls, whatever you decide to make with the starter, and you save a cup to feed for the next day. You can take what you take out, the cup that you take out, you can give it to someone to make bread with, or you can do it. It's really just a way of keeping that bread going. I am trying my hand, like I said, at making my own starter. It only has 2 ingredients. You want to use flour and water. You can use different kinds of flour. You can use wheat flour. You can definitely try your hands at different things. I am using this basic all-purpose flour this time just to see how it turns out. Again, this is a make it or fail with you guys because I have no idea how this is going to turn out, but I am hoping that it turns out really well. If you're using all-purpose flour, I have in my research read you want to use unbleached all-purpose flour, just an unbleached all-purpose flour, and it's going to be backwards on here for you guys, but and then you want to use water, and you don't really want to use tap water because we have a lot of us have chlorine in our water, so you want to use some kind of filtered water. So you could get the filtered water out of your refrigerator, or you could use bottled water. If you do have to use the tap water that you have, you want to let it, I did read, you want to let it sit out for like 24 hours for the chlorine in the water to evaporate. And once that is done, then the water should be fine and you can keep moving along to use that particular water. Again, this is just a process for me to see if it works. You will be here with me each day to see how it turns out, and hopefully we can make a good loaf of bread. I did start this 2 days ago. I started my first step of the process on Tuesday at 2:30. And the reason why you want to know the time is because you want to feed it every 24 hours, but it has to sit 24 hours for the flour and the water to kind of come together, because it's basically making its own yeast. It's amazing how mixing just a couple of ingredients can come together and make something that you need to make bread or different things with. So it's been 48 hours. I chose not to do my first feeding yesterday, which is why I was not on here with you guys. I chose to wait an extra 24 hours. The reason being is when you do your first mix of flour and water, and I will give you the measurements and the things that you need for the beginning of the process. If after 24 hours the ingredients aren't getting bubbly inside, then you want to wait an extra 24 hours. You want the flour and the water to start getting bubbly. I'll show you what it looks like once we get to that process. But I was so excited because yesterday I was beginning to think it wasn't going to turn out, but today I have bubbles. It is so bubbly inside of there, and it looks like it's actually growing, which is really cool. It's one of the things that you want to see when you're making your starter. So for the beginning of the process, like I said, I would give you the ingredients. You want a glass jar. You do not want to use metal or aluminum because it can kill the yeast in your ingredients. So you want to use a glass jar and a wooden spoon. These are the only 2 things that you will need for the things to put the flour in. Then you want unbleached all-purpose flour and filtered water. You're going to start with a 1/2 cup of flour, and you would just put your flour in the jar. Then you measure out 1/3 cup of water. Slowly start adding the water. If you don't need the full 1/3 cup, that is perfectly fine. You're going to use anywhere from 1/4 to 1/3 cup of water. And you're just going to mix it together until it comes together really nicely. It's not going to be too thick and it's not going to be too thin. You want kind of that, not quite a pancake batter mix. But that's going to be your first day. Your first day is just 1/2 cup of flour, 1/3 cup of water. Again, you want filtered water, a glass jar, and a wooden spoon. When you put your flour in the jar and the water, just use the handle of the wooden spoon to mix it together. You don't necessarily have to use the spoon part. You just want that thin little handle to kind of stir it all together. Once you get it together, you don't have to use a jar lid. I took an old dish rag, a crochet dish rag that has little holes in it, a paper towel, and a rubber band, and I loosely covered the top of the jar. You want to sit the jar in a non-drafty area that's kind of warm. Our house is a little cool. We keep it on the cooler side in the wintertime, so I think that's why it took a little bit longer for it to start fermenting together. So we set it at the coffee pot because the steam from the coffee pot ironically kind of helped add heat to it. So it wasn't quite ready yesterday, but today it was ready. I don't know how well you'll be able to see. You can see the little bubbles kind of in the jar, and you can kind of see the bubbles inside the jar. Look at how cool that is. I was so excited. You can see it kind of starting to grow. Look at how it's pulling away from the edges. So this was 24 hours for me. Again, this was 48 hours for me. It may take you only 24 hours, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody's house, the temperature in the house is a little bit different. So we are ready for the first feeding. This is going to be the first step in this process to try to grow our own yeast, because you really need that yeast for sourdough. I hope all of this has made sense for you guys. It has definitely been a learning process for me. So for the feeding, along this whole process, the only thing you will need is 1/2 cup of flour and up to 1/3 cup of water, and that is it. It takes about 6 days for the yeast to come together and to kind of ferment together to make its own yeast. I can already tell you, yeast, I do know from making bread in the past, yeast can kind of get that funky smell to it, and that's kind of what you want, is that yeasty smell. It's already beginning to smell like it's making its own yeast, and that's really cool, guys. I am so excited. My mom, and I told her this morning that I had bubbles in my flour mix, I was just ecstatic. So we're going to do our first feeding. You're not taking anything out of this yet. This is just the first feeding of this process. After today, tomorrow, once we come back, we will start taking a cup out and putting more flour and water in. Take a cup out, add more flour and water. It's going to be a process for about 6 days until we get our own yeast made. So we're going to measure out. I have a 1/2 cup spoon here. You want to do a level 1/2 cup of flour. See, just a level 1/2 cup. Be very careful when you go to put it in there, because it could spill a little bit. Like I said, this is a make it or break it moment with you guys. All right, so we have our flour in there. Now we're going to start adding our water. Again, this is our first feeding. It has been a learning process for me. I've pre-measured out 1/3 cup of water. Again, don't start off with all of it, because we're not quite sure. Anywhere from 1/4 to 1/3. Like I said, you want kind of that pancake batter look. And just start mixing it together. And then we're going to let this sit another 24 hours. And you want, again, the bubbles to start forming. Oh yeah, it's beginning to smell like it's fermenting together. Get all that buildup off the sides. I can't wait to make bread with you guys. And I'm doing this on here with you all to see how it turns out. Hopefully you can come back, watch these videos, make your own starter, make your own bread. I will share the ingredients on a post at the bottom of this video. Scrape it off the handle like that. It's very thick, y'all. I didn't quite need all my water. I'll give you the ingredients on the bottom of this video, and you can come back and save it and have the recipe to make when you get ready. And we'll start making bread. We'll do a couple of recipes on here with you guys. If this turns out, like I said, fingers crossed, it turns out. I am ecstatic. One of the things that I love to do is to make our own things, live off the earth. I have a garden, make our own bread. I love to be all self-sustaining. So that's a really cool aspect to have in life, and to be able to live off the land and live off the things that you have. So we have got our 1/2 cup of flour and our 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of water mixed in. And it's just mixed in. You kind of start to lose a little bit of the bubbles, but I still have a few on the bottom. So we're gonna loosely cover this again. Again, I have a dish rag that my grandmother made. How cool is that? We're gonna loosely cover it. I laid a paper towel on top of it because it has holes in the rag. Take a rubber band, loosely put it around the top of the jar, and then let it sit for another 24 hours. So it is 2:14, 2:15, so we're going to come back on here tomorrow at 2:30 to see how this turns out, to see if it's ready. And on tomorrow, we will be able to start taking a cup out and feeding it. And then the next day, we'll take a cup out and feed it again. And hopefully after 5 to 6 days, we will have our own yeasty starter to make our own bread and rolls and just start making our own bread. How cool is that? I love this. I love this idea. I was so excited to come across it. My mom was the one that actually found it the first time. So we researched it and looked it up and tried to find one of the better recipes. But again, all of them are flour and water, flour and water, flour and water. You can definitely experiment with what you take out. You don't have to necessarily use all-purpose flour. There's all kinds of different flours out there that you can try and see if they turn out to make different kinds of bread. Maybe we can make a pumpernickel bread. I've always wanted to try pumpernickel bread, so that would be a cool one to try too. So thank you guys for joining with me today to do our day 1 of our starter. Like I said, this is our first feeding. I started it on Tuesday, so we will be on here with you guys each day to see how it turns out, and hopefully to make our first loaf of bread. I hope it turns out. I can't wait to share it with you guys. So thank you again for joining us today. Remember to go out and make it a good day. Smile, share a kind word, be an encouragement to someone. That is really what we need more in this world, and that is something that we love to be able to share with you guys. I'm learning to find the beauty around you, and the big things, the small things, the grand things, the not so grand things. Learn to find beauty around you. Learn to be kind. Learn to share kindness with those around you, because we need it more, especially in today's society. So be kind. Share a smile. If you can't physically hug somebody because we're social distancing now, you can do an air hug. You can do an air high five. You can do different kinds of things to still show people that you care and that you are there for them in their time of need, and that you're trying to be an encouragement to them. So thank you guys for joining me today on this rainy, cold day. I hope that the weather is nicer where you are than it is here. We are all looking forward to better, warmer, sunnier days in the future. So I'm ready for spring. And we will start sharing some spring ideas with you guys in the next week. We have some really cool things that we're fixing to add to our store, our shop online, our shop on Facebook. We have a local store in town that we sell things at too. So we're getting ready to stock those 2 things with a few items. And to share more ideas, more crafts, more recipes are the 2 things that we love to share with you guys on a weekly basis. And we look forward to being here with you guys even more in the future. We are excited about what's to come. We are excited about building with you guys and growing with you guys. So have a great Thursday, guys. And until next time, be kind, share love to everyone, and we will see you guys later. Bye.